SoCal 219 here, and yes, boring hunting videos are back. Over the last few years, we've seen a lot of breakdown in some societal issues and society in itself. I've been blessed to be taught how to hunt. Maybe I'm not as effective as the people that have taught me, but I'm pretty decent. I can pull my own weight at times, and I think that's beneficial. I always talk about self-reliance. I got the chickens and the ducks, and when you look at stuff that happens in society, and folks go to the grocery store, we've even gone there, and there's nothing on the shelf. That's a problem. And I've been doing this for a while now, and I see the benefits from it. Again, I love going to shows and getting hooked up with swag and talking to people. But I like to keep my freezer stocked and my fridge full. And you can't do that when people are running to the grocery store and buying everything off a shelf. If you haven't learned from toilet paper, then I don't know what to tell you, because the next thing I believe is going to come is food, and it's going to be spread out like it was before. So again, I'm really grateful for the people that have taught me techniques and the people that let me hunt on their property. It's very, very beneficial. So with that out of the way, I had a pretty wild morning. Work has kind of kept me down, and I missed the opener, which is the first time in years that I've missed an opening day. It was bow season October 1st for this portion of Indiana, which is the northwest region. And, that was pretty crushing. Some people will say, it's not, people at work and other people that I know. And it's pretty crushing, because you got to get out there, you got to get the job done, and you want to start filling tags at this point. You don't want, the longer you drag into the deer season, or basically any season, and, it gets harder and it gets harder. And then weather becomes a factor, because there's sometimes, which I was lucky, where I was hunting the last few years, it was a hop, skip, and a jump. It was that easy to get to my spot to hunt. Now I'm running 30 minutes there and back to get to my hunting spot. So it takes a hot minute to get there. I don't care what the president says. Gas prices are still high in my area. I've spent a lot of time and effort and money. Some people will say, well, you didn't spend that much. Well, to me, working a 9-to-5 job, yes, I've spent quite a bit of money to make this happen. And again, it's beneficial. It's beneficial because of what I saw today, and we'll get into that. Woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, did all my duties that you got to do. Got in the car, stopped to get gas. I don't know what you guys paid. I paid about $4.89 a gallon, and headed off to my hunting spot. I got there a little bit after 4. I would say about 4:20, 4:25, something there. It was close to 4:30. It was pitch black, and there's a reason I'm not going to do this again. I wanted to get into the stand because I knew there was bucks. I knew possibly where they were bedding, and I wanted to get them out of bed this morning. Again, the longer you go in the season, the harder it is that you're gonna get an opportunity to shoot bucks in my area, because it's a very heavily saturated area with hunters. And when hunting pressure starts, then the deer get weary and they don't travel. And when they stop traveling, that's less deer that you see. It's very important to jump on this. That's why, missing opening day and the days to follow, not only was that critical, the weather was perfect. This is probably one of the better weather patterns that I've seen for opening day, and I wasn't able to take part until today. So I got there, I got a tad bit turned around because it's pitch black where I'm hunting to get to my stand. So I had to kind of back out a little bit and retrace my steps, which I hate doing that. And I have markers, I have everything, but it is so hard to see. So I actually had to turn on a light. and I hate doing that. But you don't know where you're going. You don't want to get lost, and I don't want to stray off the property I'm allowed to hunt and end up on somebody else's property that I'm not allowed to be on, because then that creates an issue. So I kind of backed out, went back to where I came in at, retraced my steps, and unfortunately we haven't had a whole lot of rain, no kind of moisture, so everything's crickly crackling all through the woods. And not only were there other animals doing it, I was doing it as well. So when I backed out, I waited about 10-15 minutes, and then I started back on my journey to get to my tree stand. And I got there, got up there, put the harness on, and then jimmied up my bow, and then I was sitting there, and no longer was I sitting there. About 5 o'clock, I'm gonna tell you, man, it was a very alarming sound, and it's coyotes. I've talked about coyotes in hunting videos for quite some time now, and I'm gonna roll in a clip of here where I'm sitting in my tree stand, and this is like 30 yards, if that, from my tree stand. And again, walking into somewhere pitch black, it may not be the smartest move. I've learned my lesson that I'm probably not going to do this again until it gets a little bit closer to light. And there's two reasons. And one of them is the clip that you're about to see. So if you can tell, it was about, I mean, 35 yards at the most, and there was just oh, look at that bee, a bunch of coyotes. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know if they caught something, because moments later something ran right by the tree stand, and then something else came on the backside. There's a hill over there. Something came up on the backside and just dead stopped there. I have a camera there, and I saw the red light flash, and I was like, oh, there's something there. And then whatever was next to the tree stand, I had my hand on my gun, because right now the coyotes, they're in foraging mode. They're looking for something to do, and I just sat there and waited. I don't know if it's a person. I don't know what's going on. It is, I literally, in that video, you can put your hand in front of your face and you cannot see, and that's probably one of the main things I've learned. I'm not going to go back there with those coyotes running around in the middle of the pitch black. I did have a flashlight on my hat, so I mean, it's not going to do you any good from getting bit by one of these guys if they're hungry. So I had a camera set up, took the trail cam, took the photo. I went back and looked at that photo off of that memory card, and it was a bunch of raccoons. So usually there's 3 raccoons that visit my hunting area, and on the trail cam there was only 2. So one's gone. And that's what these predators do, especially coyotes. They will go into an area and they will kill everything until there's nothing left, and they'll move on to the next area. So unfortunately, because there's a lot of squealing, I just cut that off because I wanted to be as quiet as possible. I didn't want to give up my position. I didn't want these guys to know where I was. So I didn't turn on any lights. I just, kept my hand on my gun, took it out of my holster, and kept it right down by the tree stand, just in case, they got curious, and how dogs, they'll climb a little bit, or kind of look up on stuff, with their hind legs. I just didn't want to give up my spot, and I didn't want these guys to know that I'm back there. I'd rather get the drop on them before they know what's going on. Sometimes you can shoo them away by your presence. Other times you can't. So that was really interesting, and it was kind of an eye-opener. A lot of people think you just go into the woods and you kill stuff. That's not how it is. There's other things in there that want to damage you. Let's put it that way. So that was like, I'm not going to come in here that early in the morning. I'm just not. It's too hard to see. Even as daybreak kind of showed itself, still, I mean, I could see certain parts that I wanted, I always keep an eye on, but anything to the right of me, it was pitch black, and I'm not going to do that, especially walking through there. You might spook them, but the old saying, curiosity kills the cat, man. And they will, and coyotes are very curious, especially with a lot of the animals that I see coming up and down the trails that I have made and making their own trails, like turkeys, house cats I've caught on there, and then the raccoons and possums. So that was very jarring, because once you're up in that tree stand, you're like, how they tree mountain lines. There's nowhere to go. And the last time I checked, I'm not half trash panda and I'm not a mountain lion. So there's nowhere for me to go, So that was eye opening. After all that debacle came on, I'll play another little short clip. It's really short and you're not going to see anything off the last few videos. You're just not going to. That's how dark it was. But I'll show it to you here. So you can hear the crackling and the crunching of leaves there, off in like right under my stand. So, legal shooting light here where I'm at is 30 minutes before sunrise and 30 minutes after. Sunrise was around 6:55. So, I mean, day late and a dollar short. But this crackling and crunching is coming closer and closer and closer. I don't know if it's something else that, the other coyotes or something that figured out, there's stuff going on. But it's coming closer and closer and closer. And then there's a road that comes off the ag field and you can turn down it. Well, this person had their brights on. So they kind of flashed a little bit of the woods. And I looked over there real quick. And behind the tree, I see this big deer butt. So I'm like, oh, man, that might be that big doe. I'll see what she does. Maybe she'll stick around and then mosey off into the ag field or something. Or, hopefully she sticks around long enough over in this area next to me where, it's legal shooting time. So the deer comes right next to my stand. And I look down and I'm like, that's not a doe. And he lifts his head up. And a funny story, we were at the VFW a couple weeks ago. And Cindy's brother's father-in-law was like, oh, look at this picture of this deer. It was right by your tree stand, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a nice one. Lo and behold, I have that deer on camera. I'll throw it here. But I never got a good picture of him because he would, I don't know, maybe avoid the cameras. Maybe he knew they were there. I don't know. Maybe there's some scent there that he's figuring out that there's a human. So I knew there was a big buck in the area. So that's a funny story, right? And so he comes directly under my stand and lifts his head. And I'm like, this isn't the spike that I've seen, the little 4-pointer, even the 6-pointer. I'm like, this is the guy, man. This is the dude where you sit in a tree stand. This is your target buck. So I'm looking straight down at him through the grates of my tree stand. And some more commotion way back in the woods off this other trail on it's almost like the county's property back there. And boy, he crunched up like that. His body turned like that, and he looked that way, and I looked that way too, because I was like, I hope these coyotes ain't coming back for more, because they're gonna spook this guy, or they're gonna chase him out of here, and he's never gonna come back. And then all you heard was I mean, just one big, and I was like, oh, he's grunting. I'm like, he ain't happy about that. So I'm looking, and again, I can't shoot this deer right now. It's illegal to do it. So I got my hand on my pistol. I'm like, if worst comes to worst, and it is the coyotes, I'm going to turn on my flashlight and I'm going to shoot at the coyotes. I mean, it's going to ruin this guy's day, but at least he's not going to get taken down. And, maybe another hunter can harvest him because he's probably not going to come back to this spot. But I'm going to shoot these coyotes because they've been a menace in the area. So he grunts a little bit, and then he walks back around my stand. So now in the video you watch, I'm like leaning over my stand, just trying to get a real good look at this deer. And that's where you hear the branches breaking and everything, because he kind of hops over this log, and then he kind of makes his way out into the ag field. And I got a lot of tree branches right on the edge of the ag field. So I kind of stoop down and I look, man, and lo and behold, man, there's a 10-point buck. And he just cruised in there and he cruised out. And I'll put some pictures on him because he was there yesterday. Because I had to work the other day. So he was there yesterday and he showed up again today. And it was basically the same time frame. Really, really early in the morning. That real dark time of the morning. So he's got big antlers for a reason, and it's because he's smart. And he could probably take care of himself, but he can't take care of himself if there's 3 or 4 coyotes in a group. So hopefully that didn't chase him away. I did not get a shot at him for the rest of the time I was there. I did see some other deer. I almost pulled the trigger on a big nanny doe, one of the nanny doe that I thought that deer was. She came by, but she had some of her younglings with, and it was a tough shot. And I only had a gap about, 2 grapefruits put together. And I wasn't too confident. It's about 22 yards. I wasn't too confident about putting it in there. And plus, I'd have to turn. So it's not straight on. It's not like a quartering shot. I'm turning my whole body and have to kind of lean into the shot. So, I mean, could I have shot at that deer? Yeah, I could have. I could have shot that deer. But I just didn't. I waited to see what she was going to do, and then she kind of scampered off a little bit. So I tipped the doe bleat to see if she'd come in there, the fawn bleat, to see if she'd come in there and be like, oh, there's a lost fawn in here. But she kind of came back forward to where I needed her to go, because that's a clear, if she would have stepped into that area, she would have been toast. But she took a couple steps towards there, and then she looked around, and then these 2 stupid squirrels, man, they're running up the trees, they're chasing each other, and one's chasing the other, and they come across these branches of this tree she's in front of, because all I need to do is kind of push her a little bit more, and it's a shot. Well, these 2 dummies, they're chasing each other, and the other one kind of like hangs on. The branch wasn't that strong, or wasn't as thick as he thought it was, so he hangs down and he falls, man, and that spooked her. I did another little fawn bleat. And she looked, and she's like, oh, well, probably, good luck to you. I'm not coming in there. There's all kinds of rotten squirrels running around in there. So she ended up taking off. I did have another opportunity. That's what's great about this time of year. A couple of younglings came in. They come ripping out of the woods, and, they're chasing each other in the ag field, and I could see them. And I'm like, well, I'm going to give a nanny doe call. Maybe their mom's around here. So, I'm calling a couple of times, and they're interested. So they get up to the point where I need them to come into this set of shooting lanes. Unfortunately, there's a house way back off behind me, and their dog got out. So the lady came out and screamed for her dog to come back, and that was the end of that one. So all in all, man, it was a very exciting, first time getting in a tree stand. It was a very exciting day. It's pretty cool to see the target buck that that's out there. You're just trying to be as cunning as him. And he didn't act, after all the ruckus, he didn't act spooked. He's just like, I'm not gonna mess around here. He didn't, he blew once, but that's because there's something, hanging out around there that he didn't quite like. And I'm telling you, when you hear an older buck's grunt, you know that he's not having it. So was it disappointing? Yeah, because I didn't harvest anything. I didn't shoot anything. Was it a great experience? You're darn right it was. That's what I live for. That's what I live for. I mean, it's great to harvest a deer, but when you start seeing their emotions take hold, as the animal itself, and you're trying to contain your emotions to watch what this animal's doing, it's a pretty cool experience, and that's why I love to hunt. It's great to always harvest those deer, whether it be does or whether it be the big bucks or even the smaller bucks. But that really got my heart pumping for the rest of the day. So I'm going to go out tomorrow. I'm going to see what I can get myself into tomorrow. I'm going to go a little bit later tomorrow than I did today, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So I know it's another boring hunting video. So like, comment, share, and subscribe. Do that for everybody that you watch. Thank you to my old and my new subscribers and all the people that zip through. I greatly appreciate it. So like always, man, I'll catch you on the next one.